and welcome. We have a special New Ulm Park and Recreation report this month on site. My name's Joey Schugel. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of New Ulm, and we have a very special guest with us.
Joe Gartner, I'm the volunteer for Parks and Rec.
And we're super excited to be coming to you from Nels Park today. Nels Park has a lot of amenities in it, one of our great community parks. There's walking trails, fitness opportunities, playgrounds, ball fields, and it's in a really great setting that shares a property line with Flanders State Park. So we're excited to be here with you today. Really what we want to touch on and focus on today is invasive species. And with the time, we're coming to you in February. February 24th through the 28th is National Invasive Species Awareness Month. Or week, I'm sorry. And no one better to give us some education, resources, management. This guy's poured a lot of his time and energy into, Mr. Gardner, on invasive species. So we're here today to talk to you kind of about some of the impacts that they've had in our community and some ways that our citizens and community can help prevent and manage these along with the city. So Joe?
Yeah, well, and you might wonder what invasive species are. They're plants, animals, microbes that have a harmful effect on the current environment. And you can see from our area that ash trees are dying. Those have been killed by an invasive species called emerald ash borer. And it's an expensive thing to remove these trees and that. So, I mean, there's a whole lot of other invasive species that we should be concerned about. And that's the purpose of this week and this presentation. I have a program at 3 and 7 o'clock at the New Ulm Library on February 28th. That's a Thursday. I'd invite people to come and participate in that. We also have a display at the library about invasive species. And one of them is buckthorn. This is one of the few invasive plants you can actually start controlling in the winter. When days are above freezing, you can go out and find them. They have berries on them. They also have some little thorns. Take a saw, cut them down, and get a buckthorn blaster. These are like bingo markers. You just do that. It puts a chemical into the plant that kills it. If you're not sure, if you have buckthorn, scrape the bark, it'll be orange. And this is the perfect time to control buckthorn until about the end of March.
So Joe, you touched on a couple things there. You touched on the blaster. How would someone out there in our community watching this maybe get one of those if they know they have or want to help control and control some buckthorn maybe on their own property?
Yeah, I have a bunch of them. They could call me at 507-276-8326. I suppose contact Anita at the rec center and she could get them to them too.
Yeah, so we'll talk about some of the city contact information at the end of this where we can get help connect to some of these resources like Daubers from there. But great. Next, Joe.
Well, one thing I failed to mention about buckthorn is one tree, if you leave them, can produce up to 3,000 berries, and each of them have 2 or 3 seeds in them. So we're starting with removing the berry plants. There is the male plants that don't have berries. We're just leaving them. I think.
And really the reason we're standing in Nels Park is Nels Park is a park that has a lot of wonderful trees in. However, a lot of those trees are ash trees, and so over 40 trees within this park are infected with emerald ash borer. Over half of those have already been removed, and over the course of the next few months, we have the next round getting removed. So this park's going to look very different, all because of an invasive species. And you see a lot of the new plantings around the park as well, and that was done knowing that we'd have to remove so many of the ash trees in this park, amongst other areas in parks in our park system across the city.
We have a plant that we're going to concentrate on this summer. It's called wild parsnip. It produces a toxin that can cause an irritation worse than maybe poison ivy even. And there's some of it in our community. It'd be a good time to control it before it spreads. So think about wild parsnip when you think of invasives. And the invasives we're most concerned about are the noxious ones that are the worst ones that are on the state control or eradicate list. So.
And what Joe's talking about is we're gonna put this on the screen for you so you can see this. But this are great resources to invasive species. They have identification in there. They have, what's harmful about each of the different plant types or weed types, and why it's so important to do this, and how to help with that. So we're going to have this is on the city website as well, but we're going to have it on the screen, and then we're going to do a lot of promotion during Invasive Species Week, February 24th through the 28th.
There are a lot of good resources from the Minnesota Department of Ag and the Minnesota Department of Transportation and the Minnesota DNR, as well as some stuff about buckthorn at the city office.
Yes, and due to Invasive Species Week and our huge volunteer effort, our countless hours that Joe's putting in to help with this, Joe and Julie Gardner, your wife, and we're hoping to gain more volunteers and more awareness, throughout the community. So our mayor Kathleen Backer created a proclamation for next week being National Invasive Species Week. So that proclamation says, whereas National Invasive Species Awareness Week is a national event to raise awareness about invasive species, the threat that they pose, and what can be done to prevent their spread. And whereas prevent invasive species most common to the New Ulm area, some are emerald ash borer, common buckthorn, and wild parsnip. And whereas invasive species can be harmful to human health, agriculture, and our environment. And whereas the city of New Ulm is committed to raising awareness about invasive species by connecting residents to resources that provide education on identification, prevention, disposal, and management. And whereas the city of New Ulm promotes proactive control to prevent widespread invasion and the harm it could cause through safe and sustainable weed and brush control. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Mayor Kathleen L. Backer of the City of New Ulm, Minnesota, by virtue of authority vested, do hereby proclaim the week of February 24th through February 28th, 25 as National Invasive Species Awareness Week, and urge all citizens to become educated on invasive species management and prevent their spread of invasive species within our community and surrounding areas. So here's our proclamation. And so, Joe, as we talk about this, what else, should we be concerned about in our area, along, whether it's emerald ash borer or some of our others that invasive species you've talked about?
There are 12 dirty dozen weeds that are in our area that we probably should be most concerned about. But there's other plants that aren't here yet that are coming this way, maybe, and we need to be vigilant to see them when they first get here so we can control them. Because once things get to be all over like buckthorn, it gets to be a lot harder to do. And one of them is hogwort, which gets very tall. It's very toxic if you touch it. That's not here yet. It's a big plant. We should learn what it is and then keep our eyes out for it. And it's called early identification and rapid response. There's a hotline number you can call. I don't have it right now, but to turn in things like that. And I think people kind of look at me funny sometimes when I say I'm trying to control buckthorn because it's so common. But The idea is if we can remove the berry producing trees, then we can have a little bit of an opening for other things to grow and live and survive. And that's the way it is with invasives. You know, sometimes like the emerald ash borer, it's pretty hopeless. But there's a lot of other cases where there's a lot of hope. It's just that we need some bodies out there to help, you know, work on it. And so if you're interested in helping to control buckthorn in the New Ulm area, you know, let me know.
And again, the best way to do that, City of New Ulm, New Ulm Park and Recreation, give us a call at 507-233-2121, or stop into the New Ulm Recreation Center where our administrative offices are. We can connect you with these resources that we're talking about today. And before we end this segment, I do want to have a huge thank you to Joe Gardner for the countless hours you put in, not only in our park system, private areas where residents allow you to be on their property, our state park, and just all that you're trying to do to get, not only put your time and effort into it, but to help others with this.
I'm 72, I'm retired, and some people like to fish, and some people like to hunt, some people like to golf. Believe it or not, my wife and I like to remove invasive species, so there you go.
Yes, well, thank you, Joe.
Yep.
Yes. Anything else before we move on from this segment this month?
Not that I can think of.
All right, well, next time you're up in Nels Park, I'd urge you to look around and see what the emerald ash borer has done to this park in particular, and how the park is changing because of that. This has been our New Ulm Park and Rec report for February. Reminder, National Invasive Species Week is February 24th through the 28th. Resources on the New Ulm Park and Recreation Facebook page. NewCat, please go on to the NewCat New Ulm Community Access YouTube page, view this segment, share that with people, and then reach out to us if you're interested in helping out.
I also have this presentation that is available for other groups. So anybody wants it, just contact the Park and Rec office and we'll get it scheduled.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Joe.